The Gemara had a question: what's the concern if she would pray for the Kohen Gadol to pass away? If a person is not deserving, we have a pasuk from Mishlei that says Shlomo Melech says that a curse, a baseless curse, a curse that's coming for nothing, has no power. So what's the concern of the mothers that they have to go ahead and bring food? What are they worried about? Like for instance, let's say if a crazy person will curse somebody, and the guy is crazy while he's cursing for no reason. Shlomo Melech says that there's no reason for the curse, there's nothing to be worried about. Yeah, but even if the mother, I'm saying, but even if the person in exile is doing it from his heart, but why should the mother of the Kohen Gadol be concerned? What's the mother of the Kohen Gadol being concerned that they're going to pray that her child should pass away so she can get out of exile? That's a curse. But why does she have to be worried about that? So a curse that's based on nothing and there's no power. So the Gemara says the problem was that there was an issue. The Kohen Gadol, there's something that we could point to the Kohen Gadol that as at fault. What was the thing that he's at fault? Because he could have prayed that the accidental death should not happen. If he would have prayed that unintentional death should not happen, it would not have happened. And therefore, because if it happened, it means he did not pray properly. And therefore, there's a criticism on the Kohen Gadol. And therefore, because of that, he's in danger from the prayers of the guy who killed unintentionally. Because if he will pray for the death of the Kohen Gadol, it might happen. Why? Because the Kohen Gadol could have done something better. Is that clear, Mr. Safdie? Either he didn't pray for it or he didn't pray hard enough. But I think that in itself is an amazing lesson. So we see the prayer of Tefillah, that the Gemara is confident that the power of Tefillah would have prevented that unintentional death. Now we're on 3 lines into the wide lines in the Gemara. In the Art Scroll, we are on Art Scroll Yud Aleph Amud Aleph 11a. We are on 11a. We are on 11a4. 11a4. Where the Gemara says, top of the page, 11a4. There are those that have a different version of the Mishnah. What is the version that they have of the Mishnah? The Ika de Masni, not that we needed the mothers of the Kohen Gadol wanted to make sure to prevent the Rotzeach, prevent him from praying for the death of the Kohen Gadol. Not that they wanted to prevent him from praying, rather they wanted him to pray. The point of the bringing of the food and the clothing to the Rotzeach in exile, to the one who killed unintentionally, because the mothers of the Kohen Gadol said, we need the prayer of the Rotzeach to help their son, the Kohen Gadol, to prevent him from passing away. And the prayer of this person will be so powerful, we want his prayer. And the Gemara says, Ika de Matni, there are those that have the text, Kidei sheyispalalu. Haim, you have the Gemara on 11a1. You got it? On 4 on top. Mr. Asafti, you got it? Ika de Matni, Kidei sheyispalalu b'neihem shel yamut. They wanted, not that they want to prevent the Rotzeach from praying for the death of the Kohen Gadol, rather they wanted him to be the one to pray for the Kohen Gadol to live. And why is that? So the Gemara explains. Taima the matzalo. If they will pray, that's going to go ahead and save. The mothers understand. It's amazing how the mothers understand this. The mothers understand that if they will pray, the Rotseach, the person who killed unintentionally, will pray for her son, the Kohen Gadol, to live, then he will live. Halom Mitzalo, if we don't have this active act of the Rotseach to pray for the Kohen Gadol to live, Halom Mitzalo mighty. So what will happen is her son, the Kohen Gadol, will pass away. You know, and there's two things in life. There's the Somera, there's the Aseh Tov. In life, we have to stay away from the bad, but it's not just good enough to stay away from the bad. We have to Aseh Tov, we have to do good. So sometimes what's needed is we need a positive action to help the situation. The first text was stay away from Somera. We need to get away from the bad, that they shouldn't pray for their son, the Kohen Gadol, passed away. This text says we need an Aseh Tov. We need an action here to save the day. We need the prayers of the Rotseach, the one who killed unintentionally, to save her son, the Kohen Gadol. Now the Gemara says, if she doesn't pray, no one does something, the Kohen Gadol his life is in danger. He's going to pass away. So the Gemara asks the question, Holo Mitzalu Mighty. If they don't pray, the Kohen Gadol is going to pass away. Why? What did the Kohen Gadol do? This version of the Mishnah, you got it, Dr. Navid, you have it? What did he do in the wide lines, about 4 or 5 lines into the wide lines? You got it? What did you say, Doctor? So what Holo Matsalu, if they don't pray, Mighty is the language of mate. They will pass away. The Kohen Gadol. What could he have done better? And the Gemara illustrates this. In Bavel, there's a mashal, there's a parable that people say, there's a saying, famous saying. They say about somebody who gets punished for someone else does a sin, and this guy takes the rap, gets punished for someone else's sin. They say, Tuvya chata, Tuvya did the sin, Vizigud, and Zigud mangid. And Zigud gets the punishment. What is that mashal? What is that saying? What's the background of the saying? There were 2 people. One person's name was Tuvya, and one person's name was Zigud. They brought this is found in the Gemara Psachim. Tuvya did a sin, and Zigud came by himself to testify against Tuvya. He did a certain sin. Now, and he came as a lone aid, as a one witness. And you can't go ahead and we can't punish a person based on the testimony of one witness. If one witness says that someone ate pork, whatever the sin was that Tuvya did, if a person ate pork, if one person comes and says, I was witness that this guy ate pork, one witness can't do the guy in. You can't give a guy lashes based on the testimony of one witness. You need 2 witnesses for the court to punish anybody. One witness has the power to obligate an oath. If, let's say, someone says you owe me $100, and then you deny it, and you have one witness on the deal that says that you owe the guy, Reuven owes Shimon $100, so that can obligate you to swear to that you denied it. You have to swear against the one witness. But here, when it's talking about creating punishment to someone of, let's say, lashes or other type of punishments, capital punishment, whatever it might be, you need 2 people. So what happened? Rav Papa went ahead and gave a punishment. The rabbi gave a punishment to Tuvya, because you came because, right, to Zigud, I'm sorry. He gave a punishment to Zigud because he said something not nice. He said something derogatory about Tuvya. So Zigud says to Rav Papa, Zigud says, listen, Tuvya did the sin. I witnessed Tuvya do the sin. but I get the punishment. Sigud gets the punishment. And this became a very famous saying that happened. And now people refer to this here in Bavel. This is a very common saying when someone else gets punished, when someone else does sin, and someone else gets punished. Now again, but this is the proper thing to happen, because you cannot go ahead and say something. If you're the alone guy, there's nothing for you to say, because it's not going to be accepted by the court. So what are you coming to do? You're just coming to badmouth the guy that the court can't accept. So that's why the Gemara, that's the mashal in Bavel. Hatam, in Eretz Yisrael, they have a different mashal. Amrim, Shechem Nasiv. As you know the story with Shechem and Dinah. Shechem took Dinah. He took her for his wife. He took her against her will. And what was happening? And he had pleasure from being with Dinah. And the people of the city, the mam guy of the people of the city, what did they need to do? They needed to get a Brit Milah. What happened was the brothers of Shechem and Levi came to town, and they told the people of Shechem, if you want to go ahead and marry out, they wanted a plot to get to punish
was it
Shechem.
son of Shechem that took Dinah?
Say it again.
Was it the son of Shechem?
Shechem ben Hamor, if I recall correctly, the pasuk. You look at the Shechem, the son of Hamor. Shechem took Dinah, and
then
the brother. Right, remember what they did, Yosef? They made a proposal. They said, if you want to go ahead, because they came, they said they want to marry Dinah, they want to take her properly in a kosher way. Now they want to say, because Shimon and Levi says, if you want to marry our daughter, you have to go ahead. He already raped her, and he already had her. You have to, he like kidnapped her. If you want to go ahead and have everybody get it, we'll give our daughter, we'll marry each other. But you have to first, your sons, if you guys want to marry our daughters, they have to have a Brit Milah first. You have to have a circumcision. Then after they all got a circumcision from the city of Shechem, then Shimon Levi wiped them out. But what happened? The people got a circumcision. They had pain. Circumcision has pain to it. And Shechem was the one who was having benefit. So that was the mashal. Shechem is having pleasure because he has Dinah. But that guy Gazir and everybody else was busy, got pain. They're suffering because they had the Brit Milah. So that's the same thing over here. The Gemara is saying the guy who went ahead and killed, he killed unintentionally, but he was the one who did the murder, and yet we're saying that the Kohen Gadol is going to be punished. So they know the Kohen Gadol is going to pass away unless they have the prayer of this guy who killed. How is that fair? So the Gemara answers, Amar hu Sabah. There was an old gentleman, Mepirkei de Rav Shmuel. He said, I heard from the drasha of Rava. See, it's important to go to the drasha to hear the rabbi speak. Then you have what to answer. You have what to say in life. They should have asked for mercy from Hashem on the generation that this type of death should not happen, that accidental death shouldn't happen. The low big shoe. And it's obvious that they did not ask properly, or they didn't ask at all, because if they would have asked, it would not have happened. This is how confident the Gemara is, that they were in this fact. And therefore, the Kohen Gadol, without the prayer of these people, of the Rotzeach, he's labeled to pass away. And I would like to add that because it was the Kohen Gadol could have prayed and prevented the accidental death.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So all the story happened before they went down to Egypt. So there was no Kohen Gadol at the time. It was only Yaakov and his sons. That's it.
Right. The Gemara is not bringing the story of Shechem to illustrate regarding exile. The Gemara is just being as a mashal. The mashal, the idea that people say, how does it? People will say, look at the story. He had benefit, and this guy gets pain for, like it's not fair type of thing that people will be saying. Look at the irony. He has the pleasure, and this guy gets the, on the deal. He got the pleasure, and he got the raw end of the deal. Like Tuvia sinned, and Zagid gets punished. So that's the same thing over here. This guy killed unintentionally, and who's getting punished? The Kohen Gadol. How is that fair? So the Gemara answers because he could have went ahead and prayed, and therefore your prayer would have prevented the sin. So therefore, if you could have done something to prevent that, and you didn't, you are held responsible. Like the concept we have. If you're able to make a protest, when you see someone doing a sin, and you don't go ahead and protest, and you could have prevented it, you're held accountable. How do you like that, Dr. Right. Right. So I don't know that they could go to all the 48 cities, but they went to as many cities, or they sent messengers. Meaning you don't need to go yourself. You can appoint agents to go for you. It's maybe full-time. Maybe that's what she was busy with, the mother of Kohen Gadol. She was knitting clothing. Yeah, but the Gemara is saying it wouldn't happen. It would not have happened. This is an amazing concept. The Gemara is saying the death would not have happened.
Not only around the world at the same time, there's someone who's in one of these cities of refuge. It occurs wanting attached.
Like they wouldn't attach to him if he did nothing wrong. But the Gemara is saying he did. If he sinned, if somebody. Yeah, but when it depends on what type of sin. Many people could do certain types of sin, but it doesn't mean they're going to pass away as a result of that sin. But here, the Gemara is saying that if the first shot on the Gemara is, the first text of the Gemara is, if they pray for the Kohen Gadol to pass away, if the Rotseach prays for it, then they're afraid it's going to happen. It's going to come to be. The mother of the Kohen Gadol is afraid, and she has right to be afraid. No, but the Gemara is saying she's right to be afraid if he prays, because the prayer will take effect, because there is reason for why the guy is saying it, and that's what the Gemara is saying in the second text. The second text is saying without the prayer of the Rotseach, the Kohen Gadol is on death row. Why? Because he did something. He could have prevented this whole story. He could have prevented the death. You could prevent someone from sinning, and you don't, you're held accountable. He could have prevented the death of this person. So now, in a certain sense, he's going to be liable to death. That's the power of responsibility that a person has. And I wanted to say, perhaps, we need specifically the prayer of, why the prayer of the, according to the second version of the Gemara, it's not that the Rotseach, the guy who was sitting in exile, was praying, what the concern was he's going to pray for the Kohen Gadol to pass away. No, that wasn't the concern. The concern was we need him to pray for the Kohen Gadol, not to prevent him from praying for the death of the Kohen Gadol, but rather to have him pray. And perhaps because this version is saying the Kohen, specifically this guy who's sitting in exile, his problem was because of the Kohen Gadol. So therefore, the Kohen Gadol, we need him, who was the recipient of the punishment, if he prays for the Kohen Gadol to live. The guy who got it in a certain sense, the guy who got killed. The guy who got killed would have gotten killed anyway. God would have if the guy he was obviously meant to die, but that this guy should be the one that it should die through him and going to exile. The guy could have, if the guy needs to have a punishment, God could give him another punishment, not exile. The exile that this guy is sitting in exile is directly a result of the Kohen Gadol not praying. So, in order to remove that great possible punishment from the Kohen Gadol, the guy who is affected the most, if he prays, if an average guy prays that the Kohen Gadol should live, will not have the same power than the guy who himself has been affected the most by the lack of action of the Kohen Gadol. The guy who's sitting in jail as a result of the Kohen Gadol, he is the one who is feeling it the most. So his prayer is such powerful, and if he prays for the Kohen Gadol to live, that's going to be an amazing prayer, an amazing merit for the Kohen Gadol. Yes, Mr. Safdie, you want to say something? Right. Right. You have to talk a little louder. They want to hear your holy voice. Mr. Safdie, please.
So, he did pray. He did
He did do tefillah, but it sounds like he did pray. But this specific prayer, meaning in prayer, there are all different types of prayers. But to pray specifically that deaths that were unintentional deaths should not happen, it seems he did not include that specific prayer in his prayers. He might have prayed for other things, for prosperity for the Jewish community. There shouldn't be, issues of, but this specific prayer of that no death should happen unintentionally, because like I said yesterday, what's the case of unintentional death? One of the classic cases, a guy is going down a ladder and he falls off the ladder, and there's someone on the bottom, let's say there's a baby on the bottom of the ladder, and he kills the baby on the bottom of the ladder. Now, did it have to be that the baby was on the bottom of the baby? Could have been a foot away and nothing would have happened. Obviously, it could have been, if a person would have had protection from God, extra supervision, hashgacha pratit from God, the baby would have been a foot away. Or the guy is chopping in the forest.
The one who put the baby there.
What'd you say?
The question, whose fault is that? Is the one who fall down or the one who put the baby there?
Right. Good point, Yosef. Right.
Smile on your face.
Right. So I'm saying that, but the guy's going to chop wood in the forest. And what happened was the iron part fell and went flying and killed somebody. It could have missed, but it didn't. If he would have had special protection, it would have happened that the guy would have been a foot away and he would have gotten killed by the iron. But it didn't happen because he did not merit the special protection. Why didn't he merit the special protection? You know how many times the guy said, he almost got hit by a car. That means but you were protected. You didn't get hit by a car. You know, today's day and age, you go into the street, a bicycle, boom. But the bicycle just came right by you. And you know, people do get hit by the bicycle or a. But you know why? You were saved. You were protected. But he wasn't protected. The death happened. So the Gemara understands it's because there wasn't a prayer from the Kohen Gadol.
The Kohen Gadol checklist of what you have to pray, you know.
Say that again, Yosef?
I'm saying the Kohen Gadol should have a checklist of what you have to pray for.
That's true. That's a good point. So unless we have to say that even if he had a checklist, but the prayer wasn't done perfectly. You know, there's a beautiful, maybe even if he prayed for it, the language of the Gemara, he should have prayed, but he didn't. But it could be he prayed, but not strong enough. And that's not called praying. There's an amazing Medrash Shmuel in Megillat Ruth. It says in Megillat Ruth by Boaz, Vayochal, Vayesh, Vayitav Zibo. Boaz ate, he drank, and his heart was good. So the Medrash says, what does it mean his heart was good? Shebirach Amazono. He said Birkat Hamazon. So the question is, if you said Birkat Hamazon, it's obvious. What do you think? Boaz is the head of the Sanhedrin. What do you think? You don't think he said Birkat Hamazon? The Torah says V'achalta v'savata v'rachta. So what is the pasuk? By the way, it's a beautiful idea you could share. What does he say? Everything you should be able to share. What does it say? What's the chidush? What's the pasuk telling us? Vayitav libo, his heart was good, means he went ahead and he said Birkat Hamazon. Everybody says Birkat Hamazon. So he says that, you know what, there's two types of way of saying Birkat Hamazon. You're saying Birkat Hamazon, just reading the words, and the same Birkat Hamazon with proper kavanah, with proper focus, with proper heart. Vayitav libo, he felt good, his heart, but he felt he did the proper job. He said Birkat Hamazon with proper kavanah. So therefore, when you do a mitzvah with the fullest, you felt good. Vayitav libo. So therefore, maybe that's also the idea. Because sometimes maybe the Kohen Gadol was missing, perhaps Yosef, and not doing it with his fullest. And maybe that's why it happened.
The kavanah.
The kavanah to the fullest sense.
Rabbi, can I ask something? Rabbi?
Yes.
Can we do last 5 minutes about Tisha B'Av?
Yes, we can do last 5 minutes Tisha B'Av. Yes, you got it.
Thank you.
You got it, Yosef. So the Gemara says, and the Gemara illustrates the responsibility of a righteous person for his generation. Kiha to Gavrad Achla Aryeh. There was a story of a person that got eaten by a lion. Barachok Tlasa Parsei Mineder of Yeshua Belevi. The story happened at a distance of 3 parsa. A parsa is a 72-minute distance that you would walk. So you're talking about 216-minute walk. The accident happened 216-minute. That means over 3 hours. Over 3.5 hours distance from the rabbi. So you maybe, think about it, how long it takes to walk a mile, 20 minutes a mile, right? Let's say. So it was 3.5 miles away from the rabbi. It wasn't in the rabbi's, wasn't the rabbi's neighborhood. More than 3.5 hours, whatever. If you do the math, right? We said it's 200 and something minutes, whatever, 8 miles, whatever it was, 10 miles away from the rabbi, whatever it was, the distance away from the rabbi. And yet, because the person was eaten by a lion within a certain amount of area from the rabbi, lo ishtoi Eliyahu b'hadei, 3 days, Eliyahu Hanavi stayed away from the rabbi. The rabbi was punished that for 3 days, Eliyahu did not talk to him. This rabbi was an amazing rabbi, that he was, Yeshua believed that he merited having Eliyahu Hanavi. By us, Eliyahu Hanavi comes to the Brit Milah. But here, Eliyahu used to speak with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. But because he did not, because someone, a lion ate a person, something happened to someone within a certain amount of distance, even though it's not such a close distance, but he was responsible. The tzaddik is considered responsible because his prayers could have protected the generation. And it's obvious that there was something lacking in his prayers, or else we would have had special supervision. That's the power of the prayer. So therefore, the Kohen Gadol is also the same thing. His prayer would have prevented, and therefore he's held responsible.
Rabbi, wasn't there a period in history where the Kohanut was sold, and a lot of people bought it, and it was a corrupt time in our history, and they would go into the Kodesh Kodashim and die because they weren't pure?
Yes, that was during the second Beit HaMikdash. Almost every year they always had to put a new Kohen Gadol because of that. Correct.
And are we saying that those Kohanim had this level of prayer? In other words, is it consistent that whoever's Kohen Gadol has this level of prayer, or just the holy ones, the pure ones?
That's a good point. I presume everybody has, I mean, the power of every person, has definite power, because we find even a blessing of a hedyot, even a person who is a simple person. But your question is a rasha. You're talking about people, if they were rishaim, that would their prayer have power to prevent the death?
Really, not the title. It's not the title of Kohen Gadol. It's really the soul, the person, the purity of the soul that I would imagine has the power of prayer. Like you said, a simple person who's more, righteous than God forbid, a corrupt Kohen Gadol, I would imagine have the same level of prayer, or maybe even better than a Kohen Gadol. So my point is that it can't be just the title of Kohen Gadol that could have that power of prayer to prevent, accidental death. That's a heavy ability. That's a heavy power.
Right. I hear you. It's a good point, but we do find Jaime in this week's parasha. In this week's parasha, we find that Moshe recounts that Hashem says, when it came to the mountain of Edom, to fight against Edom, Har Seir, Hashem says, I don't want you to fight against Edom. And one of the Rabbeinu, I think Rabbeinu Bachai says, why didn't we fight against Edom? When it came to Sichon, when it came to Og, they went and they fought against us, and we went to fight. We were ready to fight if necessary. If they fought us, we're going to fight them. But when it comes to Edom, they're ready to fight. We step back. We don't fight against them. Why not? Because they had the kibbut of aim. Edom comes from Esav, and Esav had the merit of kibbut of aim. Now, Esav was a rasha. Esav was a rasha. He was up to bad things. But the merit of the mitzvah of honoring his father is such a protection or such a merit that he deserves that deserves reward, that we will not go ahead and go to war against them. So I wonder, even a rasha, when a rasha does a mitzvah, it has power. Like it says, Hashem punishes the rishaim in the next world, and they get the roof of they reap the benefits of their good deeds in this world. Meaning, even when a rasha does a good deed, he's rewarded. A rasha does this mitzvah. He honors his father, like the Italian mafia guys, right? And I don't want to label the whole community. They're known for kibbut av. They honor their parents. They're going to get rewarded for it. The fact they might be doing other things wrong in life, that they're going to be punished for. It's not. So I wonder if you have a Kohen Gadol who does the mitzvah, any mitzvah, even if he's corrupt in other ways, we have to look at.
He has some zechut. You're saying his zechut could be alone his power.
Right. Any good deed he does, that's why when you have sometimes when you have a non-religious guy or someone went off the derech, every mitzvah they do, they're gonna get a reward for, and everything that could have power. So maybe, perhaps, in your question, that maybe the Kohen Gadol, even if he was corrupt in other areas, but there's a mitzvah of tefillah, there's a mitzvah of prayer, and being that he is a leader of the community or whatever, he has this position of responsibility. So even if he's not using it in other ways properly,
I understand. Thank you.
Perhaps that could be a.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. I like to hear questions. I don't like to hear my voice. I appreciate as I tell everybody. I like to hear other people talking too. Yes. Talk a little louder so everyone can hear you. Yes.
I'm saying that we didn't have that has a control from their prayers, the general public and the Kohen Gadol. So what happened with Moshe Rabbeinu, the 40 years in the desert? And they also had Aaron, and they had Miriam, and so many people committed sins. So many people died from the Magafa and other stuff.
Right. Beautiful question. So what about Moshe Rabbeinu and the 40 years in the desert where so many people died, so many sins? So perhaps the following, the Rambam in Hilchot Shuvah, which we mentioned, I think is fascinating. Everyone needs to learn the Rambam, Perek Hey, Vav and Zayin, 5, 6, and 7, where he talks about Bechira Chavshit. That everyone is given the choice to make certain decisions in life. So the fact the Jewish community, I want to say, no, I'm saying like this. So perhaps this type of a sin, when a person deliberately does a sin, maybe the Kohen Gadol Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer might not be powerful enough to prevent people from willingly sinning, and therefore that generation that willingly sinned, we're not going to hold Moshe Rabbeinu responsible because he didn't pray for them. Because you can pray as much as you want, but if the people of the generation intentionally want to sin, they're going to sin, and you can't prevent that. But an unintentional death where the people did not intend to kill, that perhaps by your prayer would have had the power to, like we said before, the guy would have moved a foot away. The baby would have been a foot away.
You're saying the prayer is effective for accidental death, but an intentional sin is probably not covered by the concept of what you're talking about.
That's what I'm suggesting. Now, of course, it could help something, but to say that the prayer is going to prevent somebody, I'm going to pray for the generation, I'm going to prevent the guy who intentionally wants to sin. Is my prayer going to be enough to prevent them from sinning? I don't know that that's going to be enough. No, but they intentionally, it says there's a passage that says they intended, when they went, they went to do with a bad mind, with a bad eye. Okay, but we should always have a good eye to look for the best. Have a great Shabbat, everybody. But we learn the power of prayer. How much prayer could affect, could save, could prevent, could do amazing things. Let's take advantage of it.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. You too. Thank you for being on, Jaime. Thank you, Yosef, for being on. Thank you.
Good
Yosef,
evening.
forgive me. I got caught up in the Gemara and I forgot it. We'll say one halacha about Tisha B'Av, Yosef.
Yeah,
Forgive me. I got so caught up, Yosef. We'll say halacha about Tisha B'Av, that, we can't learn the regular learning on Tisha B'Av that we learn every day, because learning makes you happy. And therefore, we have to learn other types of learning on Tisha B'Av, about the laws of Tisha B'Av, about the destruction, Eicha. I want to wish Yosef you'll forgive me.
It's okay, Rabbi. What happened? We just learn more Torah. That's it.
You got it. Okay, have a great day, Yosef.
Rabbi, I want to ask you about something, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So I have in outside in my yard, I have a chicken coop. Okay. On Shabbat, somebody told me, you have to check about to close the coop itself. Is that a problem? Because
Closing the coop itself, the question is, you're not allowed to capture, right? So the question, what's the question about closing if you're allowed to close the thing itself? That's your question, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna speak with someone today. I'm gonna call you back today about this question. Okay? Do me a favor. Text me at about you want to text me about 11 o'clock this morning?
I will try.
We'll get to more around that time.
Okay.
You have to be careful. There's a malacha called Seidah and Shabbat. You're not allowed to capture. The question is, are the chickens already considered captured or not? Different laws. We'll talk more about it. We'll have to research more about it. Charles, have a great day.
Rabbi, just you understand, the only reason we close the coop, not we want to capture them. It's because to protect them from other animals,
Right. So we'll have to see more about it. We'll talk more later.
And by the way, Rabbi, I did all tichum around my house.
Thank you, Charles. What?
I did my tichum, my eruv around my...
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to see more. You did a great question, Yosef. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye.
Bye-bye.